Keeping Canadians safe is the number one responsibility of all orders of any government. All Canadians deserve to feel safe wherever they happen to be. But people across this country are rightly concerned about the level of gun violence that is taking place on our streets and in our communities. Our work in strengthening our gun laws dates back to June of 2019 with the passage of Bill C-71, which contained provisions designed to ensure that guns do not end up in the wrong hands. And in the meantime, we will continue to work with provincial and local officials from across the country to address the surge in deadly gang-related shootings in many places that have taken place in recent weeks, and to discuss ways on how we can work together to keep Canadians safe. Earlier this year, the Government of Canada introduced Bill C-21, one of the strongest and most comprehensive packages of firearm legislation in Canadian history. Bill C-21 proposes to complete the prohibition of the more than 1,500 models of assault-style firearms that we initiated in May of last year.
Criminals don't pay attention to such bans, and if they can't get them locally, they will smuggle them across the border. And so you have to do everything.
of the motive for the crime. I'd say it was an apparent targeted home.
Now, Minister, my question is this. You commented in the House just recently, you said this with regards to respecting individual autonomy and decision-making. You said, before I was 25, I was married. I was the father of 2 kids by then. I owned a house. I had a mortgage. I was a cop. I carried a gun. I was entrusted with all the powers of a police officer, including the authority to restrict a person's liberty and to use force, perhaps even deadly force. I could buy a drink and I could smoke a cigarette. That was how I was trusted. End quote. Minister, in this statement, in one breath, you associate maturity and therefore the ability to make autonomous decisions with drinking, using a gun, and applying deadly force. Minister, to use your words, is that not irresponsible to associate those 3 things in one statement in the House of Commons on Parliament Hill?
Ms. Harder, congratulations. That's a remarkable stretch of credibility and logic.
Did you not state this?
Yeah, what I was talking about is
because
frankly,
you're associating these 3
question.
things with being mature to make an autonomous decision.
It's what I was explaining is what the authorities and responsibilities we give to adults, and acknowledging that adults have these authorities.
Mr. Speaker, let me be very clear. Red flag laws save lives. I have actually used those sections of the criminal code to seize firearms in these dangerous situations.
Our work in strengthening our gun laws dates back to June of 2019 with the passage of Bill C-71, which contain provisions designed to ensure that guns do not end up in the wrong hands.
Dangerous situations. And I can also advise you, Mr. Speaker, of the limitations of those laws. Mr. Speaker, we know that the average assaulted woman in Canada is assaulted 25 times in a domestic relationship before the police are in fact called. 70% of firearm deaths in this country are suicides. And we know that there are people exploiting violence and hatred against visible minorities. Mr. Speaker, these laws will empower Canadians to take action to render a dangerous situation, a potentially deadly situation, safe.
And so we know there's 3 ways in which those guns come into our communities. They're smuggled across the border, they're stolen from legal gun owners, and in some cases they're purchased legally and then sold illegally by gun traffickers. And so those are the 3 ways the guns come into the community. We're going to shut down all 3 sources of supply. We have been working towards the announcement of the prohibition. It's the first and very important step of what will be several important steps that our government will take to keep Canadians safe. I think I will always be haunted by the realization that if we'd only been able to bring in this prohibition sooner, it might have made a difference in Nova Scotia. That's perhaps unlikely, but we'll never know. you may recall this. There was a terrible, tragic mass shooting at a little elementary school in Sandy Hook, Connecticut, and 22 little children were killed. And I remember going, because I was vice president of the Major City Chiefs at the time, and I went down to Washington with my colleagues from the big cities across North America. And the poor Americans said, well, now is not the time and it's too hard. And I felt sorry for them. And in Canada, we have a different legal framework, a different culture, a different tradition, and frankly, very different values. We value each other. We don't believe it's necessary to arm ourselves to protect ourselves.